Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to our YouTube channel and welcome to this video. This is John from Programming Knowledge and this is another video for our PWA video tutorial series. And before we proceed with the implementation of our PWA project, let's try to look at first the life cycle of our service worker. So this is one of the most important aspects when it comes to learning the implementation of progressive web app. And it will help us to avoid complications and problems later on during the implementation of our project. So basically from the previous tutorials we already have different files inside our project, such as the index.html, styles.css. So these two files are responsible for the structure, the arrangement of different elements inside our app. We also have the app.js, and this particular file is responsible for registration or registering our service worker. So we don't want to use the UI.js or the common.js that we have because we want this particular app.js or the service worker to be on different thread from the UI. And also we also have the pages directory, which contains the about.html and also the contact.html. And later on in this video tutorial series, we're going to be adding different elements also to our contact.html file. So if you want to add, contact form, if the user wants to contact for the developers. And we also have the service worker file, so it is represented by the sw.js. So this is simply all the logic concerning the service worker. So first off, for the life cycle, the app.js file will try to register our service worker or the sw.js, and it's gonna try to invoke this install event. And we can add callback functions to this particular install event. So if the registration of the service worker is successful or not, then we can try to display something. So for example, if the registration or the install is not successful, then we could display a warning to the user, or that the service worker is not available or something. And during or after this install event, then of course our service worker becomes active, and it will try to invoke this active event. And again, we can also add callback functions to this. And if the service worker becomes active, now that means that the service worker can now try to listen for events or any activity within the life cycle of our PWA project or the progressive web app that we are trying to implement. And if we want to change something on the service worker.js file, then here's what happens. So the file swd.js is changed, then it's gonna try to wait for if we want, if it's not going to install the service worker again, it will try to wait if the user closes all the browser or the app itself. Then on the next load of the app, then it's going to try to install the service worker, and then it will activate the new version. So if we change this sw.js file, it will not activate already, or it will not activate readily with page reload because the service worker is already installed. So it will try to wait for the user to close the app or close all the tabs on the browser, so that the changes to the swd or sw.js file will be reflected to the newly version service worker. And it's going to follow the same route. So install event, active event, and of course if our service worker file is active or service worker is active, then it will try to listen for any activity that we have inside our PWA app. So now let's try to look at this inside our project, and let's go to our VS Code. So this is what we have so far for our PWA project, and from the previous tutorial we implemented this. So as you can see, we have here the app.js and also the sw.js, and we place it here, at the root directory of our project, so that we have the global scope for our service worker. So let's try to check this inside our browser. Then let's go to our console, and if we open this, as you can see here, we have already registered or displayed the service worker registered. So that's coming from our app.js right here. So service worker registered, and if we open the service worker object right here, service worker registration, and under scope, we can see here that we have the root directory as the scope. So basically now we have the global scope of the service worker. If we try to move this inside the JS file right here, so let's try to move this, okay, and let's update the app.js file. So it will be js/sw.js. So let's save this, and let's go back to our browser and refresh. Let's see the scope. So as you can see here, the scope says that we have this 1270.0.1, and then the port number 5501/js. So that means the current scope of the service worker is inside the JS file. So that's why we want this sw.js at the root directory of our project, so that we will have a global scope. And we want this global scope because of course we want to access all the necessary files inside here for our service worker. So let's just update this for now. Instead of JS, we're just gonna base the sw.js file right here. Okay, so save this, and of course this is what we're trying to do here. We're just checking if the service worker is supported. As you can see, because not all browsers supports service worker. So if we open up the Can I Use website, so service worker, and as you can see, the Internet Explorer does not support the service worker. Edge has support, and Firefox, all the red ones meaning that this particular version of Firefox not supporting the service worker. So the green ones meaning supporting the service worker. So you have to make sure that you check this Can I Use website to check if the service worker is supported or not. So that's why we're checking also here in our app.js if the service worker in Navigator is present in the Navigator object. And if it is present, then we will try to register the service worker and specifying the file of our service worker.js. Now what we could do inside our service worker file, instead of directly logging the installation of the service worker, so let's comment this one out for now, and let's try to look at the install service worker event that we will try to add. So install service worker, and in here I'm just gonna say self and then add event listener, and this should have the install event, and let's add a callback function right here. So event and then open and close curly braces, and we're just seeing here that we're just trying to add event listener, and if it is an install event, we're just gonna fire the callback function, and the callback function will just have the console log, and then we can say here service worker has been installed. There you go, and then semicolon, save our service worker file, and go back to our browser and refresh. So we now have the, let's try to clear our storage for now, site data, and G4, refresh, go back to our console. So we have here service worker has been installed and service worker registered. So this means our service worker is working. And I think that's all there is to it in this video tutorial. And in the next video, guys, we're gonna audit our app, and let's try to see if the app passes the requirements for PWA implementation. So again, thank you for watching, guys, and see you in the next video.